Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
This is the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini, and joining me tonight, as he does every Saturday at midnight, Rob Barretts. How you doing, Rob? You having a good summer? King of all engineers. So, you want to write a book. You want to get it published. Okay, let's do it, all right? We have another group of authors joining us tonight. They're going to share how they did, what they did, how they feel about the whole process, and then you can listen, digest, and get it done. It just so happens we have a plethora of children's authors tonight. You like that? A plethora of children's authors to start off the show, and their inspirations will not surprise you. Debbie Willis was inspired by her 4-year-old, and she asked the questions, are dinosaurs really extinct?
Yes, I did write that book. Actually, I wrote it about 20 years ago because in Cape Coral, where I live, the sewer system and dual water system were being put in. And as they tore up our roads, they created mountains for a little 4-year-old. And we would sit in the front yard and watch the big machinery work. And looking at the machinery, I thought, wow, this is kind of like back in the day when, humans, and look how big these machines are. And it reminded me of dinosaurs. And I just kind of put the book together based on that. It was just kind of fun watching my 4-year-old watching the big machines and wanting to play in the mountains and especially the big crane, the head comes up like the big dinosaurs, and I don't want to give it away, but...
Was this a book for your 4-year-old?
His name is Joshua, so it is definitely for him, and because he was there getting to see it. And I think he's probably the first one to actually buy my book.
How old is he now?
He's 24.
So it only took you 20 years to write it down.
Actually, I wrote it 20 years ago and had really forgotten about it and was just reminded about it, I guess, about a year ago. So that's why Page Publishing came into my life. Because of computer issues with me and not being computer competent, it took about a year for us to go through the process of illustrations and, getting it all on paper to publish.
Well, what was the catalyst for you to publish it 20 years later?
Well, actually, I had lost a job, and I had been praying, actually, how am I going to get money? And I can't work right now. After I lost my job, I was sick with pneumonia, and it's like, how am I going to get money into the house to pay the bills? And actually, I believe God reminded me I'd written this book. And so I found it, got it out, and looked at it and thought, well, I'll self-publish this, and went online, and 3 companies popped up. So I thought, okay, let me get information from them. And Page Publishing was pretty, they just kept bugging me, actually. And so I finally agreed to send the book and see what they thought of it. And the rest is history. It didn't take me really that long. Once I had in mind what I wanted to do, it didn't take long to write the book. And I think it's kind of a fun book, especially for, little ones. And so I'm glad it's out there. I cried when I first saw the pictures they had done based on what I had drawn using crayon. And when I saw the first picture, it's like, oh, my goodness, it looks so good. I'm very pleased with the book.
Debbie is proof it doesn't matter how long ago you wrote something. There's still hope. You can get it published. And she's so happy. She told me she cried. Isn't that nice? We love that. Mariah Olaznavage wrote Adventures of Allie and Buddy. Her inspiration, you guessed it, her kids, ages 7 and 5. Because?
Well, my kids love to read. And so I figured if I could write a story that was kind of based on some of the things that they had did or something that would interest them, they might enjoy reading a little bit more and get more into it.
So you basically wrote a book about them, hoping they'll read it.
Right.
Have they read it?
Oh, yeah. They get into mischief, and then throughout the mischief, there's a lesson that they learn. They have fun, but then they also have to learn that through their little adventure, that there's a moral to what happens. They get into trouble or they don't tell the parents where they're going. And just like every day of a kid's life, they're good at a point and they're naughty at a point, and they have to learn what they should and shouldn't do in their daily life.
What made you go with Page Publishing?
Well, I went on online and I was trying to look up publishers, and there was quite a few publishers, but you had to go and distribute the books, or you get so many copies. Well, Page Publishing kind of popped up, and so I just called them and they sent me a pamphlet, and I looked at it, and then they just said to send them the book, and then we would go from there. And so I just figured it'd be something interesting to try to do and see if I could make my dream become a reality. And then I have done a book signing at Barnes & Noble, and I have another one coming up. And then I have a couple other prospects where I need to get a couple more books and send out to more companies and see if they'd be willing to sell the book. I mean, this has been a dream of mine most of my life to be an author, and I think having children kind of paved that way. I figure if my kids are doing some of these things, there's got to be other kids out there doing some of these things.
Always a good chance. Whatever your kids are doing, you can almost bet on it. Other kids are doing it too. Never worry about that. How about A Magical Ride with John Heacock? He wrote The Magic Trunk, inspired by his grandchildren. How you doing, John?
I wanted to inspire the love of reading, into them. And what better way of, doing that than making them characters in a book?
The characters in your book are your grandchildren.
Yes. The trunk, the grandparents always kept the trunk locked, and then they found it unlocked one day. So they opened it up. There's a ladder that climbs down into another land, and when they got down there, they were actually transformed into elves and dwarves. They were dressed, in that type of attire. And first thing that happened to them, there was a ogre that was attacking them or chasing them. And, back on the other world, the grandmother had seen that the magical trunk was open and that the grandkids were gone. She knew about the trunk, what it did, so she goes down in the trunk to find them. And when she goes to that world, she becomes the White Witch. She becomes a witch. And so she saved them from that ogre. And they were looking for the Papaw because that's why the trunk was open. He had went down there. So they started looking for him. They found a battle going on where the Papaw, who is actually the White Wizard, is battling this dragon and this Orc King. So anyway, it's that type of an adventure.
Is there a lesson to be learned here?
They wasn't supposed to go in the trunk. They did go in the trunk, and then they were almost injured, but they were saved by their grandmother, who happened to be a white-haired witch.
Have your grandchildren read the book?
Yes, they have. Yeah, they really enjoy it. I've always liked writing, reading. I've got a wide array of stuff I like to read.
Are you reading it to other little kids?
I've got 9 grandkids, and all of them enjoy it. Took a long time. I didn't realize how long it would take. Other than that, I had a pretty good time.
All right, John. What an imagination this guy has. And, he sounds so low-key, but he's got all this creative stuff going on in his head, and I bet you do too. I know you do. Kids not only inspire us, Mia Johnson believes some very special children can teach us a thing or two while they're at it. She tells us how and why in The Adventures of Super Lenny. I like that title.
Thank you. Super Lenny is really a superhero for the children, the ones that people seem to forget about. He's battling the ABCs because, ABC is starting at the beginning like they run the whole alphabet, and he's trying to make them see that all the letters count. And I just came up with that story idea because of the children I work with, which is they are so great. They're mentally disabled, and they have so much to offer, but they seem to get lost in the shuffle. So Super Lenny's kind of the voice for those children. basically some of them are very higher learning and some of them are not. But, believe me, with the pages and the ideas, and they get the concept. It's amazing that, I read it to them in class and they get it. Some get it and some don't. But the book was just basically just stated that, everyone's important. Maybe somebody actually, look at them and say, hey, of course, you don't have to be the glittering star to be a part of the whole fabric to be important.
Is there a need for books for these kids?
Oh, believe me, there is. They love to sit there and they sit there more so the ones that are more, not so comprehensive. They get the pictures, and if you point out things, and that's why I tried to make the book as bright as possible because, they like bright colors and stuff like that. And then there's some that do get the story, and they love the fact that Super Lenny's a superhero and that he's in there battling out and, on his Lenny cycle and stuff. They really got a kick out of that. That made me feel real good.
He's got a Lenny cycle. I like that.
Yeah, got a Lenny cycle. We had to go downtown and figure it all out, I thought, yeah, that was kind of cool.
How are you getting the word out about this book?
Well, basically, besides going to local libraries myself and requesting it and getting friends to do the same also. And I also had a party. Oh, that was fun. Try to do actually, book appreciation. Come see this new book that I have. I did that with my sister a little while ago. That was pretty successful. That was pretty good. And just word of mouth. I work in a school, so I do come in contact with a whole lot of people. They're forever doing book fairs and stuff like that. So that's been my ways. But I'm sure that if I can think of a couple other ways to get it out there, I'll do that too. We deal with a lot of parents, a lot of them of Hispanic nature and stuff like that. So maybe, as far as getting to them, I mean, it's a vast population of Hispanic children, but they still like the fact of the book and everything, so I would have to find a way to translate and get that across. But as far as on the regular and ordinary people, they do. A lot of the people say, that's wonderful that because they'll ask what inspired it. What gave you the idea? And I said, well, I look at these children, and I look at them, and I see people look past them like they don't count. And that kind of really got to me. I've been writing for a long time, but nothing ever made me feel moved enough to put it on paper and say, hey, everybody's important. Not even in the ABCs. I was like, you always taught your ABCs. Basically, you're taught your letters, not your ABCs. What happened to the rest of them? My mom said, where's your mind? You can just think of stuff like this. I said, well, this got moved in that way.
You think you'll be writing more?
Sure. Believe me, there's more stories to be told about. This is a whole lot of situations that I said, okay, I've always been a person for the underdog. I don't care if the odds were 100 to 1, somehow, some way, that one, could do it. So I just said, you know what? Okay, this started something. It always takes, something to put me in a direction. So definitely, it's definitely going to be a sequel to the first book, and hopefully more ideas will spring from that. Maybe on a subject matter, but
I'm inspired just talking to you, Mia. Great example here of writing from experience, something and are absolutely passionate about. You can't go wrong if you write about something you really love. All right, when we come back, we're going to switch gears and we're going to hear from some authors with some words of wisdom. Don't you go anywhere, all right? We'll be right back.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call for your free author submission kit. Call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
You have returned to the Page Publishing Book Club, and you're going to be glad you did, because we're going to Fayetteville, North Carolina for some words of wisdom from Dr. Gary B. McLaurin. It's all in his book entitled Nuggets.
Nuggets is basically just no more than, over the years, words of wisdom, almost like the footprints, where a lot of poetry, but it deals with reality. That's basically Nuggets, where I might have just a thought, but that thought can be something that revolutionizes people's lives, and it has. It has. Like we have one slogan now that's called Destiny, and it means if you have no purpose in my destiny, then I have no need for you in my day. So that's one of the biggest things. We're making sweaters out of that.
So do you use this in your practice as a doctor?
Oh, sure I do. Mm-hmm. When I speak, when I preach, when I minister.
What kind of a doctor are you?
Bible, biblical, minister, preacher.
These are spiritual sayings. These are things to inspire people.
Sometimes you waste time with people that have no purpose in your destiny. In other words, you're not going to get nothing from them. Only thing they're going to do is take from you. And if they're taking from you, that hinders you from getting to your next point. So therefore, if you have no purpose in this destiny, I don't need you in my day. I don't need you to throw nothing at me that's going to throw me off from where my goals are and what I'm set out to do. And just like we have things that we govern ourselves by as far as the universe. And there are things in the universe that can be good for you. And then there are things in the universe that are detrimental but still can be good. By getting the wisdom and you gather the substance that you need that can help somebody else to pull them out of whatever that is that they're dealing with or whatever that is that they're confused about. Sometimes you have that answer without them being confused. And so you can just give them the nuggets, little trinkets kind of things of wisdom that will help inspire them and encourage them. Nuggets deal with also, perceptions. Sometimes people have perceptions of things that they're not clear on. And if they don't have a perception of where they're going, then definitely they don't have no perception for you. And that goes right back into, having purpose and destiny and in your day. And we just don't waste energy. And that has been the success of my ministry and my business. It's been the success. I just don't waste time with people that have no energy and draining people. I don't do those people.
Oh, I know. People who drain your energy drives me crazy. We all know who they are, right? So instead of letting that happen, I guess you just, you hand over a copy of Nuggets, right? Thanks, Gary. Ever make a bad decision? It just weighs you down and it just makes you feel so low you can barely get out of bed in the morning? Well, Gary Hall Sr. wants to help you get out of the pit and into the palace with his book entitled From the Pit to the Palace. Give us the message, Gary.
It's to let people know that just because that you are down and out and you feel like you can't do nothing about it, but you can, and, by doing something better in your life and get from out the pit and get into the palace. It's like a lot of times people got a bunch of baggage in their life. They have a baggage of financial problems. They got baggage of relationship problems, of homeless, jobless. But that doesn't mean that is you, or people living in the ghetto. That doesn't mean that that's you. Because just because you live in the ghetto, it doesn't mean the ghetto is in you. So what you want to do is you want to rise from that, and you want to get from there to from out of the pit and get to the palace. And so the story goes back to using as Joseph. When Joseph was a type of 17 years old, that his brothers all put him inside the pit, and they sold him. He went through all difficult times in his life, and when he was put in prison, but he didn't give up the faith, and he didn't give up the hope that he could still get to the palace, because he knew that somebody that more powerful than any other guys, the men in the world, he knew that the man upstairs was going to do something great for him. And so what he did was, he was 17 when he was in the pit, but he was 38 years old when he became second in command. So I'm trying to let people know that regardless of your circumstance in life, you can rise out the pit and you can go to the palace. So I want people to understand that you are who you are. You don't have to stay there. You can rise above that. Because there are so many people in life that have risen from the pit and got to the palace.
Do you use your own life experience as an example?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I was there. I've been in the pit. And through my life, I knew that I could do better with my life. I knew I could rise and get to whatever I want to do in life. And that's what I did. So I came up hard because I was in the pit. And then I said to myself, I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm going to educate myself to where I can get all the education that I want. And whatever subject that I choose or occupation that I choose, I want to learn everything about it that I can. And I want to be able to make a better life for my children and my family. And that my family don't have to come up the way that I had to come up. So I made good choices in my life. So life is all about choices, as I put it in the book. And then I put in the book, and I was telling them about we have to be careful as young people to who we follow. You know, just like I looked at the definition of you know, a lot of kids say, I want to be a thug, and I was showed them what a thug is. There's nothing good about being a thug. So people have to be very careful how they use words and terminology. And I want to let people know what these type of people is all about. And these kind of people is not. These kind of people gonna stay in the pit. And what I was showing young ladies is, if you get messed up people in your life, then these people are going to keep you in the pit. And so to be able to rise out of the pit, sometimes you got to make decisions in your life that if these people not doing me any good, then I need to, put them to the side and move on to big and better things in life. Because people will hold you back from the greatness that the Lord has for you to be able to move forward. You can rise out the pit of life, and you can get to the palace. And that is the most beautiful thing in the world, is to be able to see people make a change in their life and not let people run their life, but they run their own life.
All right, Gary, life is all about choices. Finally. All right, let's pretend, all right? Come on, Rob, put on your armor and Roman soldier helmet. Go ahead. We're living in Europe during the Roman Empire, and there's a girl named Evea, and she's a pioneer of sorts. That's the name of the book, written by Sean Norton. Tell us more, Sean.
It's about a daughter of a Roman captain that rose up in the time of Julius Caesar, and she's a pioneer. She's like one of the first healers, and she learns the sword, and it's kind of a dark, a little bit sexual, adventurous novel. When I start a book, I have an idea of where I want it to go, and I just keep it loose. And I started with a character that was running down the street, and it turned out to be that she was running towards a parade that Julius Caesar was coming down, and the book took off from there.
So you don't write the books write you.
I think that's one of the better parts of what I do, because it kind of keeps me open to the creative flow. And sometimes I'll kill off a character that I thought I was going to keep around for a long time, or the story will take a twist that I didn't think it was going to. But that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
What do we learn from her experience?
There was structural things in the housing. There were no trash collectors in the streets of Rome, but there were around the major temples. What great architects they were. A lot of the healing and the herbal remedies that started what was probably going to be modern medicine, and then warfare. Their siege techniques, the things they did in combat, both at sea and on land, just from the father while he is mentoring his daughter teaches her the story, which is a little socially unacceptable at the time. But I started the sequel. It is almost done. It's about 100 pages from being done. So that's exciting, too. I haven't really decided how to end that either. I think that's one of the great things about writing. You have these ideas of what's going to be a powerful scene in your book when they meet these big characters, but it's the smaller scenes. It's the scenes where they're eating breakfast with their family, or it's the scenes where they're just going through their daily lives. They can give people a chance to walk down a road in another time.
What's the takeaway?
Well, I think that no matter what walk of life you come from, you'll be able to enjoy this book. It is about a father and a daughter growing closer to each other. It's about the human experience. It's about love. It's about romance. It's about the excitement of the world around you and what you could do to change it. I just couldn't imagine a better way to spend $10. I think that it will bring you pleasure to read it. It's a joyful story.
All right, Sean, very excited. After writing short stories for years, he's finally completed his first novel, and he's already on to the sequel. And we're already on to our next show here on 710 WOR. Thank you so much for stopping by. Me and Rob, we love your company. We really do. I hope you got some kind of inspiration from tonight's show. And if you need a little more, come back next week. Same time, same place, unless there's a Mets game, for the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Rob Barretts is my engineer, and we will see you next time. In the meantime, start writing.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.